So with the Anime Awards going on, I've been hearing sort of the same thing a lot. And that is, where's all the love for recreators? The show only got a couple nominations, and a lot of people don't think that's enough. For those of you who don't remember, Recreators was an anime that came out last year from like spring to summer, and it sort of became the little show that could. This anime got a lot of love and a lot of attention, in part due to the fact that it's not based on anything. It's not from a manga, or a visual novel, or a light novel, or anything. It literally is just people who came together and created a show. You didn't have a fan base complaining or praising how much it was like the source material. You didn't have people who knew all the twists and turns, who were really only shocked when a difference was made. The show could be its own thing and not have to worry about anything else. It's hard to not want to root for a series like that. And for a lot of people, this show not only lived up to expectations, but exceeded them. There were a lot of people who loved this anime and thought it was one of the best of the year. And I say that, a lot of people, because I am not one of those people. In case you didn't know, I hated this. I put it on my worst of the year list, and I don't get it. Like, I don't get what people love. And people keep talking about this show like it's a masterpiece, and the only reason it didn't really get as popular as maybe they would have liked was just because it was on Amazon. Okay, that's probably a big part of it. But I kind of want to put it out there that why this series maybe isn't the masterpiece so many claim it is. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about the positives, because there's some good stuff to talk about. The first thing I want to bring up is the animation. This show looks great. It's got a beautiful, crisp, clean look to it. All the action scenes are well choreographed and well designed. They do a great job of using the environment, as opposed to a lot of shows that just use city as the backdrop. And I love the character designs in this. Basically, everyone looks different. Everyone looks unique, and everyone's look fits their personality and character. There's a great sense that if you just saw these characters, you could immediately tell what kind of people they are. And I think that was done great. For the type of show this is, it would have been so easy to just make the main fighting characters have original designs and everyone else just kind of looks same and in the background. But no, a lot of effort was put into making everyone feel unique and have their own identity, and I can really appreciate that. And it fits in well with the show's premise, which is, well, you have this world that's supposed to be like the real world, and then one day all these fictional characters from different shows and games and stuff start coming through, and well, of course, naturally, they gotta fight each other, because what else would they do? Let's be real here. And yeah, that's not the most original premise in the world. The concept of fictional characters coming to real life has been done before, but another thing this show really succeeds in making you feel the weight of what's going on. Like, even though, yes, I've seen cartoon character comes into real world, this show does a good job of establishing a level of weight and seriousness to it and giving it a sense of scale and epicness. It really puts you into the show and gets you into the world, and it made the first 7 or 8 episodes of this really great and really fun to watch. And then, okay, let's just get right into it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think the biggest problem of Recreators is its length. I think it's about 22 episodes long, and boy, do you feel it. I don't know exactly what the original plan for this show was, but it kind of feels like they had a story planned out, and then they were told you need more episodes, so we get a lot of padding. And where a lot of shows, padding comes in the form of comedy relief, character development, and unfortunately sometimes recap. Thank you, Black Clover. This show's idea of padding is to spend a whole lot of time giving exposition we don't need in really boring, stagnant scenes. This made the show go on forever. There's like a good 5 or 6 episodes in the middle here where nothing happens. And I wouldn't be so against talking. I love good dialogue. I think you can get a lot through. But these dialogue scenes don't really amount to anything. Like, the thing is, there's all this talk about, well, why are fictional characters here? What's going on to reality? What's happening with the universe? What effects could it have if we stay here? How do we have our powers in this world? Do we get our powers from regular people? That's a thing in here. Like, apparently, in order for these characters to get their stereotypical power-ups, they need to be approved of by the fans and the people watching, which does something somehow. Who cares? None of this ever really comes into play into the story. Yeah, I don't even think we really find out in the end why this happened. I really genuinely have no idea what these fictional characters are coming through here for, and even if they tell you, it's done in a way that's so boring and uninteresting that I don't really care. You see, the thing is, anime is a visual medium. Say only what needs to be said and show all the rest. This show seems to have that concept backwards. And what it feels like, they had the budget for only 15 or 16 episodes, and when they had to drag it out, there's just a lot of stagnant scenes. A lot of times, when you have scenes that revolve around what a character is saying, you need some sort of visual to go along with it. Even Black Clover understands this. When they do their 80 billion times of explaining to Asta that magic is everything in this world, they'll have some accompanying visual, rather it be a kid using magic normally while Asta can't, or showing farmers using magic. This is very basic, but it is effective, and it gets the point across. Or let's go with another example. My favorite anime last year, Koi to Uso, has this very clever scene where shut up, phone, where some government agents explain why exactly or how they come across, basically pairing you up and deciding your whole life for you. The dialogue is very cold, very scientific, makes you just seem like you're a lab rat and a specimen. But the visuals just show children going through their daily lives, doing normal things. It creates a sense of uncomfortableness and a nice atmosphere to accompany a show that doesn't want to come across as dark or overly scary, but would rather you come to that conclusion yourself. Visuals make or break a show, and yes, many people will be, well, anime tends to be more limited in budget, so movements tend to be more slower. That's why in a lot of anime, they tend to sort of make it count where it needs to count. When it's time for a visual image to be striking, they make it striking. When it's time for a scene to be important, they make it important. But when you've drowned out all that time with just dialogue and you're just stuck trying to find an excuse for why that dialogue is there, you don't really have a chance to make anything come through right. The action scenes are very well done, but then about halfway through they kind of stop. We spend a lot of time, like the last good fight is an airport fight, but that fight then goes into some more problems, and then we just get a lot of people talking and stressing over stuff, and again, it doesn't really impact anything, especially because the final battle is just this boring 4-episode big brawl, which should be awesome, but instead of having all these different fictional characters from different fictional universes going at each other, they mainly keep characters just fighting characters that make sense for them to fight. The JoJo's reference character just fights the JoJo reference character. The mechas just fight the mechas. They don't really do anything unique with this. On top of that, the city background stops being a plot point and is just sort of there. On top of this, the sheer amount of logic holes it takes to get to that finale is just too much for me to forgive. I really just could not get into anything in this show after a certain point, and well, unfortunately, that's kind of what pisses me off. What started out as a really fun, exciting show got so interested in its own logic, and it never really did anything with it. That whole idea of people getting power, of the characters getting powers from people believing what they can do, they never do anything with it. Like, they bring it up once, but it never changes where the fight is going. Like, literally, another good example of how this works. Current right now, Darling in the Franxx, Trigger's new show. They literally made a huge plot point in it that when two people's minds are melded to control robots, this is a weird show, by the way, if you haven't seen it, they go out of sync, and they can go out of sync easily, and it becomes a big deal. You need to sort of show characters' strengths and weaknesses, and then you need to do things with them. You can't just sit there, have all these big ideas be brought up in dialogue, and then not go anywhere with them, and that's this show's big failing. The other big failing in this, and this is going to piss off a lot of people, some of the way it uses characters later on become bad. So, and I know this is going to get a little spoiler, I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but essentially they set up this big fight where they can fight their big villain, Altair, a pretty obvious what she's after and what she's going for character, but they really play it up like it's a big mystery. And essentially, all the writers get together to give their characters more power and come up with this big reason why all this is happening, and it doesn't make any sense, because if all this is actually happening, and they put a bunch of people in a stadium to watch it, how does nobody notice their city is being blown up? Whatever. But essentially, where was I even going with this? That whole 4 or 5 episodes it takes to get to this fight felt like a fucking hand job. Like, all these writers are like, we're gonna make it, we're the most important people in the world, all of reality will come down to us and our creations, it's up to us, the artists, to save the world, love us, annoying, pretentious anime community, love us! That was a weird voice, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. Like, it just felt like these writers and artists kind of giving in to their own hype and just sort of making a big thing out of it without really thinking any of the implications of it or how it's used. There's a couple character deaths I thought were pretty underutilized, a couple plot points that just went off in their own directions. And then we get the 2 big characters who really ruin the whole thing. First up, Meteora. Meteora is the one you probably see memes of the most. She is I think she's like an NPC from a video game where she is like the wise one who has all the answers. So when she comes to our world, she has all the answers. And at first, like everything else in the show, she's a lot of fun. She's awesome first few episodes. Best girl if Celestia wasn't a redhead. I really liked her first several episodes. And then the sort of big problem with her comes in, and when you have a character who knows everything, and because she's a mage can do everything, you now just have an easy way to get everything done. Like, literally, every question they come across in the show, Meteora has the answer within 5 seconds. Every problem they come across, Meteora has the answer every 5 seconds. There's literally scenes where they just put Meteora in them, I think because she was the one most popular, and sort of like what I was saying before, kind of panders to the overly pretentious part of the anime community as just, oh, she uses her brain to solve everything. Well, no, she uses magic lightning. But essentially, they just keep throwing her into more and more scenes, I think mainly as a cheat, so they don't have to come up with better ways. You don't need characters to have to think or come up with theories or try and figure out what's going on when you just have this genius who solves everything. Like, it's kind of a cheat, and they never stop using it. And then you have the other big problem. The MC of this show, or as I like to call him, douchebag dickweed. This is... Oh, Jesus, what were they thinking with this guy? So, this is where we get into full spoilers. Just leave the review at this point. Honestly, you know where I'm going with this. This guy is the worst. He's annoying. He is pointless. He is obnoxious. And he's kind of just thrown into every scene he's in. And on top of that, you have his backstory, which of course is the cause of all of this. And it's forced, it's manipulative, and it's stupid. Like, they try and play him up as sympathetic, and he didn't mean to do what he did, but no! He's a genuinely terrible character and a horrible human being. All the problems in the show literally could have been avoided with a damn text message. And I hated him. I genuinely hate this guy. Every time I see pictures of him or clips from the show with him in it, I just want to punch him in the face. And again, if they portrayed him and showed him off as being bad, or he did do something horrible, and they made it outright, I would have been okay with it, but like everything else, we gotta manipulate it to look like, no, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, nerd protagonist who's just a blank shell for the viewer to go into. So... yeah, that's Recreators. I kind of hate it. And it sucks because there's a lot of good stuff to like in here. There's a lot of good directions. I would have been okay with a lot of the stuff they do here if they just did it right. And I hate it that no one seems to want to acknowledge these faults. The thing is that if you're just going to excuse problems as, who cares, they pandered to me. The thing is, a lot of the anime community likes hearing big ideas and they like wondering about that for themselves, which is great, but I always say this, a show must function as entertainment. It always has to function as a story and a narrative first. You can have big ideas, you can bring all these things up. The 2 examples I used before do that very good. But the thing is, you need to still answer them, even if that answer only makes sense in your story. If you want a big idea, you should let the viewer think about it and come to their own conclusion, but you need to implement it in your story and go for it. I don't think Recreators did that, and I think part of the reason a lot of people like it is because it just had big ideas, and it allowed for people to come up with their own crazy fan theories. But if you liked it, that's fine. All of this is fiction. None of it matters. Haha, you sat through 14 minutes of this. But what did you think? Give me your honest thoughts on Recreators. I know a lot of people liked it. I'd love to hear some interesting ideas about the show in the comments. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and let's see what comes next.